Here is another question that someone sent me. Instead of building the wall on the outside of the foundation like they normally do, the individual is going to build it on top of a existing concrete slab, it sounded like, and they wanted to know how they could waterproof the bottom of the area where the concrete and the wall framing meet. Now, before I get into that and provide you with my suggestions on that, now keep in mind I am not a waterproofing contractor. This is not my main area of expertise. These are only going to be ideas that I have seen used, and I will point those out, and maybe a few of my own here that might or might not work. So the building paper or the water-resistant membrane building wrap goes on top of the metal. This allows any moisture or water that gets behind the stucco or the siding to drain on top of the metal. I will not be putting the membrane in on all of the pictures, but wanted to give you an idea of what it does. So the metal that goes on the outside edge of the concrete foundation is usually referred to as weep screed, and is specifically designed to allow moisture out with holes in the bottom, like we can see here. Any moisture that gets in will either come out through the top or come out through one of these holes. And of course, this simply attaches to the wood framing plate, and hopefully you have a nice straight line here without any gaps in it. Now, here is a common method used. If you are going to come back about 2 feet from the edge of this is probably the one I've seen the most, and of course it does not work. This is simply putting a piece of J-metal on top of the concrete foundation without any type of sealant underneath it. Now, you have 2 problems here. Any moisture that accumulates around the outside of on top of the slab here can simply go under the metal and under the wood framing. Any gaps or imperfections in the concrete, including cracks, can allow water to drain into or past the wall and past all of the waterproofing. And on top of that, there is no place here for the water to drain. It can actually get trapped in the area because there's no place for the water. The water can just come out and go out. No, any water that gets in here can actually be trapped in here. I've seen a lot of the metal here just destroyed. It's gone. They do this, and it's I want to say within 5 or 6 years, it's starting to rust. 10 years, it's rusted and gone. So here's a method I have seen used before, and it's simply raising the metal up and then putting some type of a sealant underneath it. So the sealant hopefully will prevent any water that sits on top of the concrete from getting past it and under this, but you still have the problem here where the water could get trapped in this area and accelerate the process of having it rust. Another suggestion, and again, this suggestion isn't going to prevent water from going underneath. This would be to protect the wall framing plates. And you're probably thinking, oh, why would I need that? I have treated lumber. Well, treated lumber isn't always going to prevent it from absorbing moisture and rotting over time. So again, just an idea I'm throwing out here. Waterproofing membrane that would run the length of the framing. And wanted to give you an idea of what it would look like, the J-metal off the ground, about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch, something like that. You're probably thinking, oh, wait, I just want to have it 1/8 of an inch off the ground. That's fine. If you're going to put the sealant on and then squash the metal into it, knock yourself out. If you're going to put the metal on and then put the sealant on later, you're going to need some room for this, for the caulking. And remember, the caulking can expand over time. It can crack and it can separate from the concrete. And of course, once that happens, you have defeated the purpose of installing it in the first place. So make sure you get a good product. And I cannot provide you with a product recommendation because that is not something I do on my channel. So here is another method I've seen. Again, the metal without the sealant is going to allow moisture to pass through. So you can use L metal. This allows the water to drain away. It's not going to pool up or get trapped like it would in the J metal. But at the same time, this one here I think is 1.5 inches out. If you have 1 inch of stucco, then you're going to have a 1/2 inch extra line here or sticking out, and that might not look good. However, something like this would work fine with siding, where you might have a piece of 2x10 or 2x6 trim that would be running parallel to the metal. Now here's something I don't want you to do, get caught up in over complicating the process. You know, you're thinking, okay, wait, I'm going to put some metal over here and then some metal here. And what we actually did here, and I don't know if you can really see what happened. You're thinking, oh, wait, this metal's protecting the bottom of the framing plate, and it's also extended past here, and it's lapping onto the sealant, and we got another piece where this looks really good until we take the wall away. And again, we have a channel here that could collect water, so this might not be a good idea. Now, here's something else that, again, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. You could, before you frame the wall, put it in place, you could put a bunch of sealant on the bottom and then put a piece of metal on top of the sealant, or put the metal on the bottom of the framing and then set the wall on top of the sealant and then have it kind of get squished out. And that actually might provide you with a nice waterproofing method. And I don't know how, you know, if this metal was just to go up at least 1.5 inches, that would be fine. Because you could always use, if you had something like this, you could always put a piece of weep screed over this if you were going to stucco. And something like this seems like it would work pretty good. Now, remember, I am no waterproofing contractor. This thing seems good to me, but the sealant might not be thick enough. I don't know. This seems like it would fill any of the imperfections when you set it on top of the sealant and had it all squish out. And of course, you could always add more sealant on the either side of this, I would imagine, to for some added protection. But again, remember, these are only suggestions. I am not an expert in this field. I'm just providing you with some ideas that might work. And when I say might work, when it comes to waterproofing a situation like this, you could have an expert come in and seal everything. And if that sealant ever cracks or separates, then you are going to have a problem.